went.
Oh, yeah.
And how that affected all the interactions with
Through
the
the
family
family.
through the years. There had to been some resentment there
There
on some
was.
side.
Yeah, yes, there definitely was, because Gene and Tony both, they were nice brother-in-laws, but I think Dad felt, and I did too, you know,
Sorry.
all these young men that went to war, a lot of them lost their lives, and these are the guys, the ones that avoided the draft, were the ones that made out like bandits because they got good money. They were away from home, sure, they were away from home, but they weren't fighting, and they didn't get a measly little salary from the government. They just got peanuts. But when Bob came home from the service, without any trade, he didn't know anything, he had to make a living. The government sent him, because he had applied for it, a toolbox. And he still has that toolbox, or one of the toolboxes anyway. It's the real old one that opens like this. It's like a fishing box. And they gave him that with some tools, the bare necessities of tools. Hammer, saw, a plane, a rule, and I don't know, a few other things. Pliers probably. Okay, it's like, okay, sonny boy, go make a living.
After he was going to go to college and be an architect, this is what he's left with.
And he would have been good. He would have been good at anything like that because he did have a real good mind when it came to
Yeah, drawing out
calculus, and
calculus, he could like calculus out and he'd write.
architecture. He would have been great. Yeah, and I think Todd, Scott both get a lot because it certainly didn't come from my side of the family. I love the preciseness that they need to be good at anything.
Oh, me too. Yeah, lie. Okay,
That-
sorry.
No, what are you saying?
No, I mean, it's a lie on my part.
Well,
not.
you know,
Really? Aww.
I gave him that easel the other day, but somebody had taken it down. The things were all every which way. I said, Mark, just a minute, calm down.
Yeah, he doesn't have to read directions.
He knew we got it together in 2 minutes. Because I said all the Lego work really paid off, didn't it?
Legos.
Like his father.
All right, sorry.
Figure all that out.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Back
Let's
to.
talk about your time,
Yeah,
what you did and Grandma did during the war as far as working with the Rosie Riveter at Douglas Airfield.
Yeah, like what was American society? What was America like during the war when the boys
During
were
the war,
when the boys were sent off to combat?
Streets were very empty. There were no men around, no young boys. They were either senior citizens or very young boys.
Was there any men for the women to date at all?
Anyway,
Men for the women to date.
no. The women would go down to the USO centers to meet boys, to meet sailors. USO was a United Service Organization, and they would, every community had one, so that if the boys came home, they had someplace to go to meet girls. That was very important.
Well, it is
Very important. Very important.
Oh, I bet there were some steamy dancing going on at the USO Hall.
I was working for Douglas Aircraft. Oh, and then getting back to what you had mentioned. Grandma worked for, I think it was Rowland, and I don't think they're in existence anymore, which was ultimately purchased by probably AT&T. But she worked, went to work soldering things. And that was, she soldered some kind of circuit board or something. And of course, once Bob went overseas, when Bob was in Yakima and was transferred down to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, I went to work for Douglas Aircraft. And I worked as a secretary to the final inspection department, which was, aircraft plants are huge buildings. And every once in a while, there'd be a building, there'd be washrooms down below, and then they'd build offices on the top. And ours was the final inspection office. And I worked there until I got the telegram from Bob, which was February 14th. I got a dozen roses and a telegram saying, because he had been home on furlough in January, so I got the telegram saying, okay, I can get us a place to live. Can you come out so we can get married? Well, dozen roses in my hand. I ran down the block to Grandma's. Grandma was his mother, and father lived 7 doors down on Parkside, 5612, and we were at 5642. And ran down the street in my bare feet, dozen roses in my hands, and I said, I'm going to get married. And she said, well, you can't go. You can't get married. He's not 21 unless I go with you, she said. So I said, okay, go with me. So she did. She went with me. We got tickets and went to the west, out west, to Yakima. We got there in the middle of the night after spending 3 days on the train. You know, civilians had to take the back seat to all the service people. So if you were traveling and a troop train wanted to get through, they just pulled your train alongside, and the troop train took precedent. So a lot of that happened on our way. And of course, 3 days on each time we'd get delayed. We'd get delayed for a long time before they'd let us go through, because the troop train would be troops, you know. So we just had to wait our turn and then get back on the right track and continue. And so, you know, we stayed up. You sit for 3 days and you don't sleep very much. You nap, but you don't sleep very much. And she had prepared a lot of stuff that we could take. We had dried fruit, and we had nuts, and we had candy, and we ate most of that going out. There was I think we had one meal a day. We'd go into the dining car, and she would pay for that, which was nice, because I didn't have much money. Anyway, once we got there, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. Bob knew we were coming in on what train and everything, but servicemen were not allowed out on the street after a certain hour. I think it was midnight. But in order to see us come in, he had to sneak in to the railroad station and kind of hid from any military police, the MPs. So he explained, he did get caught, and I remember him saying that they were going to make him go back to camp, and he said, but my mother is with her. It's not just my girlfriend, my mother is with. And when they heard his mother was going to be there, we'd better let him meet.
Talk about his mama.
So anyway, he was able to get a room at the, I have it in my book, I can't remember it right now, little hotel right by the train. And, you know, that always the best hotels. But it was a place to sleep. One bed and one room. So anyway, Grandma said, okay, I know we're all tired. There was no couch in the room. She said, Peggy, you take this side, Bob, you take this side. I'm in the middle.
That's
we made a
really
big
funny.
joke out of it.
It's really funny.
I can see Grandma be doing that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Bob was able to get us a room at the principal of the high school had And they had lost their son in the airport just a few months prior to that. The upstairs attic room, and you know what attics are like, they're not insulated, bare, but it had a bed, a dresser, and it was 2 rooms. Grandma had one and we had the other. But we weren't married yet. So Grandma and I slept in this room about, well, most of the time he was at camp anyway. So that when he was at camp, then I had a room. This principal of the high school and his wife, who was a teacher, charged us $7 a week for those 2 rooms. The bathroom was downstairs. It was an old building frame, you know. And she would make breakfast for us. So breakfast was included in that $7. And she'd make hot oatmeal on one of these coal-burning stoves. You know, it was we always had breakfast. And then we'd walk up to town, Grandma and I, for a bowl of soup or a sandwich for the other meal.
So there wasn't any Stouffer's lasagna.
No! Seriously, true? No!
No Stouffer's lasagna.
It's horrible.
So
Okay, back to the real discussions here. Sorry.
I'm gonna have to stop.
Yeah.
You're on tape now,
I got
too?
3 minutes left on that thing.
Oh, getting back to when I worked at Douglas Aircraft, they had, this was before I was married, they had a, over at it wasn't called Douglas, it wasn't called O'Hare, it was called Douglas Airport. They were starting to build O'Hare, and they were branching out a little bit. And eventually, they said after the war, once the war was over, they were going to take that building that they made the C-54s in, which I was, you know, working for. They would take that building over, and that would be part of Douglas Aircraft, or Douglas Airport, or which ultimately became O'Hare. They had an announcement for all the young girls that worked there could go to this, they would have to bus them over to where the Douglas Airport was going to be, and they were going to have the all the GIs and the sailors that they had that were over there for like a big USO thing, and we were all invited, so I went. And they said, "Oh, we got a guy for you, Peg." And all the while I'm thinking, I don't want a boyfriend. I got a boyfriend. I like Bob. There's this guy about my size, and we got just the right size for you. And but I didn't like him. You know, he was just wasn't the one,
It's
I
just
guess.
boys being boys.
Here, hold that thought for just 1 second.
Yep.
But oh, the girls thought that was so much fun. See all these guys in uniforms.
I bet.
Men in uniform.
Yeah, there's something about that uniform.
Yeah.
Maybe I should get me one of those.
I think Justine likes you in regular clothes.
Shut up, Mom. You mean the sweatpants you wear to graduation parties? Shut up, Mom. Amy. There's boy.
Alright, sorry about that.
When did we come up with that? Huh? When did we come up with that? With what?
So when you were in the aircraft shop, was it virtually all women workers, or were there older men that couldn't serve there?
All older. You never saw anybody younger. I probably was the youngest one there. We had a lot of young girls, older senior couples that, anyway, I brought home an application. The minute I started, I realized, hey, they're paying like $3.50 an hour, which was like, wow, $3.50 an hour compared to maybe 80 cents an hour. I went from, my first job was working for an insurance company, Metropolitan, and I was on one 175 West Jackson Boulevard, up on the 75th floor, and I'm scared to death of elevators, but I figured it's a job, I gotta learn how to go on an elevator. So, anyway, I was making $18 a week. And when Douglas Aircraft, I had heard they were hiring, that's when I went out there. I started, I think it was $36.50 a week, with double. You'd take it too, wouldn't you? So, and it was fun. I liked working for the aircraft
How'd you
company.
get out there? What kind of transportation did you get?
We were on gas rationing, so it was hard, and nobody in my
There
family.
wasn't a train going out there, was there?
No, it was at Higgins and something. So, they kind of grouped people that lived in the area, and one would have, if you would give him your gas rationing coupons, he would pick you up. But we
Oh,
had to
okay.
meet, you know where Central and Elston?
Yes.
Central and Elston met, that triangle. I would walk from my house up there, and then I'd
That
get
was a
picked
good
up.
walk.
It's a good,
Yeah, it's a
like
very
a
good
mile,
walk.
at least a mile.
Yeah.
But there's a
Mile.
lot more, people are working together more than they do today, it seems like.
Yeah, you might say.
The guy didn't say, I'm not taking you to the job, you know, why would I, you
Your
know?
gas
Well, he would get my
ration.
gas coupons.
Yeah, but still,
So I don't think they would do it today.
no. People like to do their
No,
own thing.
I
you
mean,
know.
she'll sue me if something happened.
Yeah.
And then they would drive me out to Higgins and wherever the airport is. Douglas Aircraft was there for years before.
It was there when I went to United because that's where I had to be fingerprinted and went through
Right,
my
I
classes.
remember
And I had
that.
to go through the back gate to Chicago O'Hare Airport. I had to cross over the runway.
Mhm.
Whoa.
Yes.
And that was 1960.
We got married in 68, so it was like 60,
67.
yeah, 66 I think it was.
Backtrack a little bit to,
And the reason she got,
oh, no, go ahead, finish your
the reason she got that job, somebody at work told me about her granddaughter or her niece. She said, you ought to tell your daughter to go out there, they're hiring.
Yeah.
And I said, damn, if you get in, then I can get a free airline ticket.
Yeah.
And so she went out there, took the test.
Because I hated going downtown for that.
Mhm.
can we backtrack maybe a little bit to, you said that, Grandpa met you out even though he wasn't supposed to, and then exactly like where and how you got married and stuff, because I know you traveled out there to get married,
okay,
but.
okay, well, this principal, you know, a principal of the school in this little town, he's got a little pull when it comes to changing the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, in order to get married out there, you had to have a 7-day waiting period, even though Grandma was there to sign for him because he wasn't 21. Isn't that ridiculous? Anyway, he was able to get us, like we came in that Sunday night, and or by the time he went to the, I don't know whether it's the courthouse or what it was, you had to have 7 days before you could get a license, which we wanted to get married that following Sunday, which was only like 5 days or 6 days. So he was able to get a waiver so that we could get married that Sunday,
What, how old were you both?
20.
And, who, so you didn't, obviously, you just had, Grandma B and you and Grandma?
Yeah, and Grandpa, Tony, my brother-in-law, who was working at the atomic plant in Washington, Bedford, anyway, Hanford. They were working on some very secret, had to do with the atomic bombs.
Oh.
Nobody knew what it was. They
Yeah,
didn't even
project.
call it atomic. We didn't know what it was, except that it was very secret. That's where he made good money. Anyway, he knew, or Betty, my sister, told him that I was out there and I was going to get married. And he called us. And he told him when the wedding was. He said, couldn't come down. Well, he did take the bus. We met him at the bus station, and he had a little leather jacket on, a fedora, and slacks. And I asked him if he would give me away, and he said, I'm not dressed for it. Kind of a shy guy, so really not dressed for it. And I said, oh, I need somebody to give me away. And he said, well, I don't think so. So anyway, we went to the church. I didn't know who was going to give me away. Bob's mother was there. And the priest in the church said, don't worry about it. He said, I'll give you away. I said, how come you're going to, how can you marry us if you're going to walk down the aisle with me? He said, don't worry about it. Bishop Remington from the state of Oregon is here. He's going to marry you. I'm giving you away.
Oh.
And it just so happened that the gal that was going to stand up for me, who I never met before, was a buddy, her husband was a buddy of Bob's, Gail Anderson. And Gail was going to stand up for Bob. And he brought his wife, Gertrude, to stand up for me. She had a bright Kelly green suit. Kelly green. I had the only thing I had that was nice, a wool suit in Christmas red, just as red as that. Yeah. Yeah, bright red. It looks black there. So the patches on the boys were red and green. You know, the Trailblazers patches were bright red and green. So the Bishop Remington looked at us and he said, Christmas colors, the most beautiful colors in the world, red and green.
Was
Too bad
there,
it's not in color, huh?
was there, when war broke out and the soldiers were being sent overseas, was there a massive call to the factories? Was there a large call out to women to come into the factories and work? Was there a sense of women felt like it was their duty to go in and work? Or?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they felt that, well, they had to take the place of men. That's where women first started to work. Up until that point, I don't think women worked, unless it was a secretarial job, then that was all right. But anything else was, you know, you just didn't get out in the working world. Certainly, that was men's work. Just like the men used to say, that's women's work.
Was it really exciting for a lot of women like yourself, like that you got the chance to get all these job opportunities?
My mother loved it. She worked in the aircraft plant. They had the night shift, my mother and father. And she loved it. She did what she did. So my dad worked soldering something on the airplane. My mother was, I really don't know what she did. It was not in the office. It was something manual. But they, in order for me to get to a different office, if I had to take some papers up to another, they gave me a bicycle to rent up, you know, and every once in a while, when my mother and dad would be coming in about 3:30 to start the 4 o'clock shift, before I would go home, I'd be on my bicycle and go by, and they'd say, hi. That's when my dad and mother began to get a little money, and he decided that now's the time to buy the place they were renting for $29 a month. So they bought somehow or other, the man who owned the buildings, he owned this one and he owned maybe 3 or 4 on the block. He wanted to dump them. He wanted to get rid of them. And so he made it real easy for people to buy them. He said, okay, Jack, he knew my dad real well. He said, you give me, let's say maybe $2,500. You give me a check for $2,500. And my dad didn't have any checking account. So he said, that's all right. Let's go get a money order. I'll get a money order for $2,500, give it to you. But you're going to give it to me in front of the attorney. So he thinks that you're giving me $2,500. And that was the down payment. He was able to dump these houses. And
He
did-
wanted to dump them and he just wanted the monthly income. He didn't care that he didn't get the downstroke. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen today either.
And guess what he had to pay every month? $33.
I was just gonna say $30.
$33 was his
So just a
mortgage
little bit
payment.
more, what was it before he bought it? 20, you said 29?
29. Mhm.
Oh gee, $4 more.
$400 and he owns it.
So did he ever send the man the 2,500 like when things got better or did he just? that
No,
was-
no, that was, it was.
It was just
over
all
with.
part of
It
the
just-
deal.
It was just, yeah, because if he wanted, just say, 5,000 for the house, he just upped it 650 or 750 to say,
Oh, God.
you know, just to offset that down payment.
Okay.
Just ways to getting around the law, I guess.
Was there, during the war itself, was there a lot of racism that you saw?
A lot of
against- A lot of racism against
No.
German Americans and Asian Americans or Japanese Americans that you saw?
No, I just heard about the Japanese and they had them in detention camps, and that, I didn't think that was very nice, but on the other hand, there were so many
Kamikazes.
yeah, that were killing our boys, you kind of got over that, you know. You knew it was wrong, but at the same time, look what they're doing to us. So you kind of forget about that.
Did Grandpa ever mention or anything, did he ever come across when he was in Europe and they entered Germany in the West, did he ever, him personally, come across the concentration camps of Dachau or Buchenwald or?
No,
He
not
never,
to my knowledge.
he never saw
He did,
them?
he never said anything about it.
What was the reaction of your family or a lot of the people at home when the story started coming back from Europe that in fact Hitler had been massacring?
Jewish people?
Yeah,
And
what
disbelief, I think, more than anything. How could anybody do that, you know? But as time went on and we saw more and more, and of course, you read a lot about what they did. But I shouldn't say this probably, but I know that my dad, being German, always felt that the Jewish people, if they hadn't moved into Germany like they did and bought businesses and took over, kind of pushed the Germans. Yeah.
Today.
But that's what my dad, how he felt, because his mother and dad were real German. They spoke German, you know. They're from Germany, so they would tell him how it was and how they would choke the Germans out of businesses because they're that way. They're known for moving in and taking over.
So would you say your parents being German, when Hitler first came to power in Germany and he started, you know, bringing Germany out of as one of the first countries to come out of the worldwide depression, were your parents very impressed by him initially, or they flat out did not like
No, they knew he was
him?
evil. Everybody here that I knew of knew that he was evil, and that, no, nobody sided with him at all.
It was just a question of how evil he really was that nobody knew for sure until after. I mean, you said how your parents being very German, and your grandparents being very German, and having to some degree some anti-Semitic opinions of Jews. Did they, when the stories came out of the atrocities that were committed in the concentration camps, were your parents still very appalled that humans could do that to another human being,
Yeah,
regardless
I think
that they
so.
were Jewish
Right.
or, you know, were they still very much embarrassed about it?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But I remember my dad talking about, his mother and dad talking about the Japanese. That the Japanese were the ones to watch out for. That they are the ones that are going to stab you in the back.
So there was a sense of distrust with
Oh,
the
yeah,
Japanese.
very much so, just like there is today in certain areas. And of course, he used to talk about that, and that's how I remember it. And then, of course, we end up in a war with the Japanese. And now there's some of the nicest people are Japanese.
Did a lot of people after the attack on Pearl Harbor, was there very much a sense of vengeance, like extreme hatred toward, like how dare you do that to us? Was there that kind
To
of
the
feeling
Japanese,
towards the Japanese, like how dare you
there
do that to
was,
us?
up until when we finished the war, yeah, when we had the atomic bombs. Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned it, what was the reaction that you guys had about the atomic bombs being dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Like, what was being said at the time about it?
I think everybody was just so thankful it was going to put an end to it, everything. We knew it had to be over.
Did you see that? Like, I know within days of the attacks, video footage began appearing of the devastation in the two cities. Did you guys go and see, or in the cinemas, did you guys see the actual destruction that the bombs unleashed? Did you guys see that firsthand? And like,
I don't think they got released that
It was
quickly.
just newspaper pictures.
Yeah, I don't think it got
There
released
was
that
no
quick.
videos.
Yeah, I don't think
I
they
knew
released
some.
it quick.
I know BBC in fact did release within days, because as soon as Japan made its formal announcement of surrender, they allowed the Allied powers, like news crews, to enter
Probably
into
was, but we had, I didn't have access to anything like that. And if there was, it would have been a movie theater,
Yeah,
news.
because it wouldn't have.
You guys would have been movie tone news in the movie theaters. That's the
Yeah.
only thing I can think of.
Because they had.
But you did see photographs. You said, what was
We only had
what was your
radios,
reaction
and that
to
was it.
seeing those photographs, of seeing, just
I felt sorry for the people. I think everybody felt sorry for the people who were, because it was mostly civilians that got it. But at least it saved lives because it ended. It ended the war.
what during VE Day and VJ Day, the end of the war, what was the what was your neighborhood like when it was announced that both Japan and Germany in fact surrendered, the war was over?
Relief. When we saw it on headline. I don't know if I have one of the headlines, VE Day. Do you have it? Okay, be sure
This is
when you make a
Germany's
copy, make a copy
Yes.
for the boys, and they'll make copies for you of the two they have.
I gotta find them. I know we
I
didn't
know
throw them away.
No, exactly, they're dumpsters.
Oh, you know? Okay.
Yeah,
Just
because
make sure
they're
they
in a
aren't
frame.
exposed to light much.
They're in a frame, so you're all right. You didn't throw them away.
No, I know I did. Just throw them away.
Don't throw them away.
No, I did.
Yeah, you probably could get anything like that at a library, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's the idea, we've got.
The
got-
official
We've
copy,
got
the hard copy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, was there people literally running out into the streets and just celebrating, hugging, embracing each other? hugging each
No,
other,
but
or was
I
more-
guess, wherever there was a metropolis, a congregation of a lot of people in New York, and Chicago down in the Loop, there probably was, out where we were, which was kind of like the stick. No. It was kind of sad in a way because we knew some of them weren't coming home, but we were glad that it was over with. Then the shift was, when are the boys coming home? Yeah, who's going to come home first? Yeah.
Wait, so both your brothers did die during the war?
What was that, Mark?
So your two brothers didn't die during the war?
No, my brother?
Yeah.
No, they came home.
Okay.
Jack came home first.
There's a picture of Grandpa and Jack over in France. They happened to
Yes,
cross-
they
happened to
did.
cross each other.
They met when they were both in France. Jack found out where Bob was, and he came over to see Bob. Oh, that was nice. That was right after Dawn was born. And the only way that I knew, I had to let Bob know when Dawn was born, which is 61 years ago today. Happy birthday, Dawn.
That's right, that's today.
Wow,
She,
coincidence. Yeah, I was talking. Okay.
the only way he found out was, I mean, you couldn't call anybody. We had to depend on cablegrams. So as soon as she was born, Dr. Borini, he was so nice. He said, I'll be your husband. I'll be your husband. Because everybody else had a husband there, but me. And they all looked at me. I was no bigger than, I looked like 14 years old, long hair. And they said, I was telling my mother, I said, they're looking at me like I'm a little girl that's having a baby that has no husband, you know.
Unwed mother.
Unwed mother.
Yeah.
And anyway.
Which wasn't in vogue then.
No, that was a taboo.
That was very,
No, no.
And we had a ward for 5 beds, and that's what I was in, the 5th bed, because the government was paying for it. And you had to take what you got.
So how did you notify him?
Huh?
How did you notify him?
Oh, I sent him a cablegram. Dr. Berenny went out and called my mother, who could not stay with me, nor my mother-in-law. They sent them home. The night before, my father-in-law drove me to the hospital. My mother came and my mother-in-law. And they thought they were going to stay all night till Peggy had her baby, okay? They said, St. Mary's in Chicago, we don't stay here. Okay. You were born there too. And my mother said to me, and Bob's mother, that was the hardest thing for them to do, to see me take my little suitcase and walk down that dark hallway all alone.
Oh.
I said it didn't bother me. I just wanted to get it over with. But I remember laying on a cot that night, all night long. When I saw that sun come up out, because we were so close to the loop, St. Mary's is pretty close. But see that sun come up and I thought, if it's a girl, because you never found out until you had it. If it's a girl, it's going to be Dawn.
Oh, that's cool.
And they didn't give you any,
I never knew
there were no
that either.
epidurals or anything there, so you just kind
No, you just
Because you were
suffered.
you were the
You
fifth
just
bed
did
by
it.
the window.
You just did it.
Were you the
Did you
fifth
have-
bed right by the window? 'Cause you said there were 5 beds,
Yes.
so you were the closest one to the window.
Well, when you get real close, then that's after you had the babies. Then you were in a ward. But when you were in the labor, there was this little room and you had 2 windows looking out. And you were on a cot, not very comfortable.
yeah,
Dark.
and nobody, and no Lamaze, no,
No.
know what to do. Did the nurses even like tell you breathe like this or do this?
No.
You just,
no,
and
no,
so you
no.
were probably petrified. You're all alone, you're feeling all this pain, you don't know what to do.
And that not only happened to Dawn. When I was going to be born at St. Mary's, Bob, my father, went with my mom down there. He couldn't even go in.
When did
No,
they
they
start
put it in
letting
a
you
little
in?
little, like a closet, and they had to wait in there. Real,
Now, when you had Uncle Scott, could people come back when you were, like, were they more lenient on letting people
When I
stay
had
overnight
Scott?
and stuff like that?
And
Yeah.
Todd, yeah, what was the difference then, because
Oh
we're talking about
my
this,
God.
between all the different
God.
kids?
light and day. Even Scott, with Scott, we had insurance then, because Bob was working as an electrician. We did have insurance, so the room was, I think, 2 beds. But you didn't see any husband.
This is the end of our
St.
program.
Mary's with Scott too, and you laid there and suffered
By
and
yourself.
labored. Once in a while,